Hi, I'm Renarta Clanton Moyd. I'm a communications specialist with the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. During this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. Now, studies have shown that parental involvement in the classroom and the school make all the difference in the world when it comes to educating a child. Educators in the Cumberland County Schools realize this fact and actively seek the input and help of parents. Many of our 86 schools have an active PTA that works to benefit and supplement the numerous educational experiences our students have at school. As a matter of fact, about a year ago, a district-wide PTA council was formed to strengthen these efforts. Now, after this break, we'll discuss the Cumberland County Schools District PTA and its role during this edition of Get Connected.
Mom and Dad, we need you to be involved in our school, because when you are, we get better grades and have a higher rate of graduation. It could be as simple as stopping in to read haiku. Hey, we're not demanding like your boss, but we need you to be involved in our school. And maybe even get us a pony.
Hear what your kids are saying. Get more involved. Join your local PTA.
I'm a single mother of 2 kids. I work a lot. We do miss a lot. He dropped off for a whole month. Sometimes I would talk to him and he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I just get frustrated because in any way that I talk to him, it just doesn't go through his head. I didn't give up because there's always hope.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice.
Again, thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Now, we'll be discussing the newly formed Cumberland County Schools District PTA and its role. Now, joining us is the Superintendent of the Cumberland County Schools, Dr. Frank Till, the District PTA's Vice President for Leadership, Porcha McMillan, and the President of the District PTA, Craig Autry. Dr. Till, Portia, Craig, welcome.
Glad to be here.
All right. You all ready to jump in and do this?
We're ready.
You know what, Dr. Till, you've been on this show so many times. Let's be co-hosts. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
That'll work. That'll work. And you know what, actually, my first question goes to you. Where did the idea to have a district PTA come from? I mean, is that something an idea you brought with you to our school system, or?
Well, it was a surprise when I got here. And I was looking at meeting with community leaders. One of the questions I asked was, could I meet with the PTA? And found out there was none. And did some research and found out that we had let it sort of fall apart over the years, even though there was a policy that said we were supposed to have one. So we began to look at the idea of rebuilding the PTA because it's, I consider it the #1 volunteer organization ever created, and it's been a mainstay in public education since the 1800s.
And I remember in a previous interview, I think, where we had you on here, you were saying your mother was a very strong advocate and worker in the PTA.
My mother, when I grew up in San Diego, my mother, as far as, was always a part of PTA. Always on boards, won many honorary service awards, helped start PTAs when we moved to neighborhoods that were growing, things like that. So she was always a strong proponent of PTA. So when I became a principal and assistant superintendents, I've always really supported PTAs based on I saw what my mother did.
That's good. And in previous counties where you've worked, what have you seen as far as the PTA, as far as the strength of it?
Well, San Diego was the strongest in that every school, when I was there, had a PTA and had councils around PTA. Broward, when I got there, didn't have any high school PTAs and had a lot of PTOs, but when I left, every school was a PTA and got very, very strong. And so it was just a way to get parental involvement. You know that there's a group out there that you can call on, that they represent the parents of the system, and it's the best group.
That's good. And I know Portia and Craig, you all are parents here in the Cumberland County Schools, correct?
That is correct.
And have you always been members of your local PTAs?
I would say I have small children in elementary school, and so, but from the beginning, I just knew, that's where I needed to be, involved.
That's good. That's good.
And my history is a little bit different. We had originally had our kids in private school, and then started researching the quality of education that was actually occurring here in Cumberland County. So we took our kids out of private school and put them into the local schools here in Cumberland County. We saw the initiatives it was making to provide quality education. And ever since we've been in the school district we're in, we've been active in our school to be a voice for our children in those areas.
Can you tell that there's a big difference between parents who are involved and those who are not?
There's actually some research that says that the children of PTA parents tend to do better in schools. And one of the interesting researches is that a father who's involved in PTA, their children are more likely to succeed than if that father's involved with Little League and the things that we traditionally think fathers are involved with. Not that they shouldn't be.
Right.
But PTA certainly shows because people are involved in schools, and it's one of the greatest predictors.
Well, tell us, Dr. Till, a little bit about the process that our school system had to go through in order, to establish a district PTA.
Well, first off, we had several schools that had PTAs.
Right.
So it wasn't like we were completely starting from scratch. So what we did through the leadership of Dr. Perry, we invited them to come to a meeting, and we got together with them and first off asked the question, do you even want to have a district PTA? Because if nobody wanted it, we were going to be, as they say, swimming upstream. Right. But they all saw the value. In fact, several of them talked about going to the state conference and being ignored because Cumberland County didn't have a PTA.
Oh, wow.
So working with the state organization and leadership such as Craig and Porcha, we began to work, and they put together groups, created their own bylaws, created their own pieces, and it came to fruition just the other day where there was a major piece of legislation that needed some support, and the PTA was there to look at a position that would support the children of Cumberland County.
That's good. Well, now that it's established, has it been difficult to get people on board to be a part of the district PTA?
I think initially with any new organization, the folks that are involved in the local PTAs here are looking to see the value of a district PTA and what it's going to bring. There's always a learning curve with new organizations as we go forward, but for the most part, Portia, I think from our PTAs that are in the schools already established, we've had some tremendous support from our local PTAs with this initiative that's come forth from the central office.
And exactly, the membership is made up of what representatives from each school that are part of the district, or just if you're a parent in the community and you want to be a member of the district PTA, you can do that?
You don't have to have any children in our school system.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
You simply join, and you can be involved as much as you want to be involved. The PTA is really separate from the district, although we work closely with it. They form their own bylaws, have their own officers, but no. If somebody's out there, like if my mother was still alive and living in Cumberland County, she would be a member of the PTA, although she has no children in the school system. And so, no, it's open to anybody who wants to be a member. All our board members are members, and I'm a member, and we all are members of the PTA.
Right. And I was just going to, add to it that, like Dr. Till said, you don't have to actually be a part of a school. The school board they've stepped up and enrolled. But also, as far as our schools are concerned, you just have to be a PTA school to be eligible. So that's it, But if you say, well, my school's not a PTA, but I still want to partake in it, then you can be an individual enrollee in the district. So
that's great. So if you're an advocate of children,
correct.
If you're an advocate of public schools and you want to see it move forward, correct, and you have something to offer, you can just be a part.
That's correct.
That is really great. That's a wonderful thing. And when you all were establishing the district PTA, what did you see as the goals? What are the basic goals?
The basic goal was to have an organization, a system that believes like the PTA believes. You could say, well, we had a policy that said we're supposed to have it, but truth of the matter, we haven't had it for so long. You could change the policy. Was that if we're really going to grow as a school system and do all the things that we said, we need a community involvement and trying to make that happen, and the PTA is one of the best vehicles to do that.
Okay. And the goal of our PTA is simply to unify and be a voice for the rights of children and education. In fact, that is the basic fundamental ideology of the PTA. For every child, there's to be one voice, an advocate for that. And here that is our goal as a district PTA, right, is to unify the voice of Cumberland County with respect to policies and issues that are going on in Raleigh, when it comes to education and funding and those things that are vitally important for our schools in this district. And by our efforts to unify all of our PTAs into one voice, we can really show that we're here together as a community, pulling for our children and the education that they need and deserve.
That's good, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I guess in my mind I was wondering, so now that we have a district PTA, what happens to our school PTAs? You know, they're still there.
Right. Well, it just gives them an opportunity to locally have someone that they can reach out to for an advocate or a resource versus going to the state or going national level. They can come right to their district in Cumberland County, and we can then act as a liaison and an advocate. But also we'll give them resources, tools, we'll be able to prepare them, you know, through training tools and conferences. So it's a great avenue for our local. We're not trying to change those PTAs. We're not even trying to go in and, you know, now become over those schools. We're just trying to be a local resource where before they didn't have that. Like like Dr. Till said, you know, it was always in policy. It was just left kind of to interpretation and having an active role, and it just wasn't there. So we're looking forward to bringing it back.
They've already had 2 district-wide events that were open to PTA members, not just certain schools, and one was they brought in a professor from FSU to talk about parenting.
Okay, it was a Dr. Anthony
Booker. Anthony.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Pause, because he has 2 personalities.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Very powerful speaker.
and he did a great job, and it was a chance to say this is what we're about. Then this last month they did a thing on the legislation to bring them up to date. So it's to say that as an individual school, there's going to be a group out there that in fact will help you look at the big picture, and you don't have to do it all by yourself. And then when is it, May? You're going to have the state conference here?
That's correct.
So the state conference is going to be here, so all the PTA members are going to be able to go. And first off, the state's going to celebrate that we're back and running as a PTA, because they're going to have great workshops for parents.
So that's in 2012.
No, this year. May of 2011. The state PTA conference will be here in Cumberland County.
Our first year hosted in February.
Okay, that's great. That is wonderful. Now, what role do you see the district PTA playing in the schools, in our actual schools?
Well, as Portia said earlier, we realize that each individual school has its own what we call a local unit, that PTA body that has its presidents, its secretaries that are there. And we understand that no one better understands the needs of that local school than the local PTA.
Right. Exactly.
Now, what we see is that with all the schools that we have in Cumberland County, we still can underline and find important issues that are affecting every school. That gives the district PTA a platform to be an advocacy group. If we see that there are particular issues regarding funding or education that may be in 8 or 10 or 12 different schools, then the district PTA can help bring a united platform for, like a speaker with Dr. Anthony that came from FSU. We had over 120 come to that event.
That was great.
So that shows us that, you know, there are a lot of schools, there are a lot of parents, there are a lot of PTAs that are concerned about parental involvement. We had over 120 was there. Last week we had our local delegation come into our Educational Resource Center to talk about budgeting and bills that are coming up in the Senate regarding our budget this year for education. We had over 48 adults come to that from various schools all throughout Cumberland County. So a goal of our district PTA is to be that advocacy group that brings all of us together on one platform and said these are the issues that are really important to us. And we want to be, the district PTA wants to be that group that can bring those things to the table for everyone here in Cumberland County as a PTA.
That is great. Well, you know what we're going to do is take a quick break. Is that all right? You all aren't going to go anywhere, are you?
We'll stay.
Okay. All right. Stay put for us. And you don't go anywhere as well. Stay tuned for more to Get Connected.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Personal foul? Inactive activities on a glorious day.
Huh?
Let's get out there and play!
Sweet.
Ooh, freeze!
When do I get to be in?
Uh-oh. Hey, Reggie, frozen people can't talk.
PLA.
An hour a day.
I'm in. There are lots of great play ideas online, but don't stay too long.
Thanks for staying tuned to Get Connected. Now, in our discussion about the newly formed Cumberland County Schools District PTA and its role, we've been joined by the Superintendent of the Cumberland County Schools, Dr. Frank Till, Porcha McMillan, the District PTA Vice President of Leadership, and Craig Autry, President of the District PTA. Now, we were talking about some great things that the District PTA is doing, and I want to be a little bit more specific and talk about some of those accomplishments that you all are most proud of at this point.
Well, one of the things that, as a president, that I'm most proud of is the fact that we have, part of our agenda this year was to try to bring together both Fort Bragg and their school system and the Cumberland County school system.
Okay.
So one of the initiatives that we put forth was to bring in leadership from Fort Bragg and their school system to be part of our board. So we do have currently now officers on the District PTA Council Board that are part of Fort Bragg and the school system that is out there. And Dr. Till's been very instrumental in helping us with that, bridging those gaps between Fort Bragg schools and as they transition into our Cumberland County Public Schools.
Now, Dr. Till, why did you see that was important? Why did you see there was a need for that?
Oh, because first off, the PTA is bigger than the school system. It's a national movement, and I'm a firm believer that there is only one Cumberland County, even though kids K through 8th grade go to base schools who live on base. I believe there's only one Cumberland County, and that we're all in this together, and the more we can cooperate and do good things for our kids, the better it is.
That's good.
And so with the leadership, and so I'm lucky with Craig and Portia that I have people who understand it's not about silos, it's not about divided, but it's about one community, and they've led that effort.
Because they do transition even after 8th grade. We're seeing, the kids that have been, K through 8 on our base schools, they're transitioning into our county high schools. So what we want to do is make sure that when that transition occurs, that we've got folks from both sides that can help understand the needs of our Fort Bragg school students as they transition into our county sector. And Portia, you may want to elaborate on that with some of your experience.
And I was going to say, Renata, you may not know, but in Cumberland County, about 1/3% of our children are military connected. So they have just as much as a voice as Cumberland County students. So when we started initially doing our planning part, we had our organizational meetings and planning meetings. Everybody in the group felt like we definitely needed to include them.
That's good. That is good. And there are how many people on your on the council, on the board?
Executive board.
The executive board is composed of 5 board members that were part of the county initiative in our first committee. Then we added 2 from Fort Bragg who serves on our council, as well as Dr. Teresa Perry. She is also serving on our board. And we have 4 high school principals. 4 principals from different schools in the county that also serve on our board as well.
Okay. And how did you all go about, with you starting from the ground up with this? How did elections occur? How did that, or were you all just those brave souls that said, hey, I'll step up, I'll be the president, I'll be the vice, because there's several vice presidents. But first of all, how did you go about being elected in these particular positions?
Well, what they did was they started first off by a group that came, representatives from all the PTAs who wanted to be involved in starting this, and they formed bylaws.
Okay.
And so they had bylaws first, and then the meetings were actually being conducted by the state PTA. And so they adopted bylaws, and they were still conducted by the state PTA. They had a nominating committee, and the nominating committee brought forward a slate. And with that, then we took over completely from the state.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
And we were elected. We didn't have to, say I will be the only person that will do it, but we were elected. So we're here. here and ready to move.
And the different offices, there's president, but then there's several vice presidents.
There's 3 VPs.
Okay, and
I'm vice president of leadership.
And that's what do you do exactly?
Where my goal is to come and bring professionalism, leadership schools, go in there and just kind of train them and get them to the point where they need to be as far as PTAs, because even though they exist, we want to make sure they're advocating, but they're active, they're moving and going. So, you know, I'm very much there to be that leader, but I'm also a point of contact for principals. You know, if they have issues, concerns that's going on, I'd be that main point of contact along with Craig. And then I'm Craig's backup, you know.
Okay.
and lots of, but also our other 2 VPs are in enrollment or membership.
Okay.
And then we have our last VP, which is our grant writer.
Okay.
And events.
Events for that.
That's
And one thing that Portia has done with her leadership side is that we go into schools who want to be a PTA. They may be a parent-teacher organization, maybe a PTO, and not a PTA. So Portia would then go in and meet with their leadership and instruct them how to convert their local parent-teacher organization to a PTA, help them with bylaws, help them with elections and those things. So we have both been trained at the state level on organizations for PTAs. So any school that wants to join and be a PTA or convert to a PTA can contact Portia, and we can go in and meet with them and discuss how, as leaders, they can transition that school into a PTA.
That's good, and it's good to hear this because someone that might be listening and heard that you all are newly formed might just think, oh, okay, well, some random people just came together and they want to be involved as in our children's lives and blah 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 blah. But as Dr. Till said, the state came, helped you all get things established. You all mentioned the elections were held, you had to be nominated. And it's good to hear that there is a structure to it. It's not just, a bunch of parents and people in the community that are coming together and things are disorganized. It sounds like it's very well organized.
And we have maintained status with the state PTA in that making sure that all of our bylaws are in order, and we are active and approved by the North Carolina PTA as well, our district PTA.
That's good. Now, how would one become a member? I mean, I know that we said that anyone can be a member, but how would you go about becoming a member? Who would you need to contact?
It's very simple. First, again, going back to who's eligible, the school first needs to be a PTA. And then after that, we have established an enrollment application that we've made available on our website, but also that we've given to the principals and the PTAs. And then if a PTO is interested, then they can simply contact Cumberland County Schools, and they can get the information from us, an application. When they submit the application, they do have a due that they have to pay.
Okay, the dues are how much?
It is on a sliding scale, so it does depend on how many PTA members, not students in the school, but how many members are in the school. And it averages from anywhere from $7 to $25
a year.
That's it.
Oh,
That's for the school. For the individual, but it's like
$7.
$7
for the individual
person.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like we mentioned school board members that might want to be, or I'm just a parent, and I want to be a part, or I'm a retiree, or I'm a grandparent, or I'm just a community leader, I want to partake. $7 just for yourself.
That's not bad at all. Now, what's the money used for?
Well, there's expenses, obviously. When we try to bring speakers in, a lot of Dr. Anthony from FSU was so gracious to come for free, which was wonderful for us.
Yeah, we love being kind.
We do, especially when they're good. And he was phenomenal in motivating parents to be involved with their kids. But there are certain expenses that are for printing, advertising, and anywhere from $7 to $25. I think most folks out there would understand we're not here to get rich or take money away from that PTA, but we do have to have some operating cash to be able to be that voice or be that platform that our schools need.
I was just going to add real quick, but also it does provide us training to the parents, the schools, and the board members. So we can pick up some of those expenses, and then we can offer it in the schools if we need to or in the community.
That's good. And go on, Dr.
I was going to say the real key is that we have to emphasize that the minimum amount they take from each unit to the central is very small, because the idea of the PTA is to be an integral part in the school. So if we charge too much, then there would be no incentive to be a part of the bigger picture, because you'd be taken from the schools. And the schools do great things, have input into decisions, but also help with some supplies and things such as that. So it's important that the bulk of the money stays in the school for
Right.
the purpose that the PTA raised it for.
That makes a lot of good sense. Now, you all mentioned a website. Do you have the address? You know the address?
It's www.ccdpta, Cumberland County District PTA, ccdpta.org.
That's good.
.org.
That's good, and that way, after the show, people can run to their computers and check it out and say, "Hey, let me get involved," and you know, that type of thing. Now, what do you all have coming up? What are some of upcoming events? What's going to be happening down the pipe for the District PTA?
May the 29th, we will be having the end of grade testing prep for all of the students that were here in Cumberland County. Breaking out in different sessions that are there, and then going forward, already starting to plan events for next year in cooperation with Reading Rocks and those things that are vital to our school kids that are here as well.
That's great. That is so good. And what was it? One thing that I wanted to ask you, as far as goals and expectations, are there any new goals? You all refining things for next year?
One of the goals that we hope to accomplish this year and transitioning into next year will be that the schools that are not PTAs right now would begin the process to join us.
Okay.
We want our individual school leaders to see that there's value in the district PTA and the process that it has. So I think one of the fundamental goals is that we will see an increase in conversion from our schools that are not PTA now to a PTA school, which is only going to strengthen our voice here in Cumberland County.
Exactly. Okay. And any last words? Because I'm looking at our clock on the wall.
I think it's just important for people to realize that Cumberland County schools and the PTA are interested in people being involved with our children. And this is a way to get involved in a school that will make a difference with children. And we're getting to a place where our children need help, whether it's mentoring or whatever, and the PTA is one way to get involved. And it's traditional. It's got a history of over 100 years, and it's time we rebuild it in this community.
That's good.
And I just want to say, we just want to have one common goal, is to have a voice for our children. So we just want to come together and be united.
That's great.
So we're looking forward to that.
That's all right. All right. Well, hey, you all said it the best. You said it best, and I appreciate you for joining us. And I wish you phenomenal success as far as the growth of the organization.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure being here.
All right. We'll have to have you back, okay?
We'll be glad to.
You know, you'll definitely be back.
Are you a member?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not, but I will pay my $7.
Okay.
Come
Okay.
for next work day.
Okay.
All right.
Contact me.
Okay, I will.
All right.
Well, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning in for this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.